Welcome to this explainer. We're diving straight into a rapidly unfolding and, frankly, highly volatile situation, right in one of the world's absolute most critical waterways. You already know the Strait of Hormuz is famous for geopolitical tension, right? But the reports coming out of this narrow corridor right now, they're painting a picture of a region completely on a knife's edge, totally clouded by the fog of war. We're going to break down exactly what's happening today, starting with a crazy mid-air emergency, and then we'll look at the totally conflicting narratives surrounding a potential military showdown.
Okay, let's jump right in with the initial spark. This all started high up above the Persian Gulf, right near the strait. We've got a U.S. Air Force KC-135. That's an aerial refueling tanker, and it had been flying for hours. Then, completely out of nowhere, it broadcasts a 7700 code. Just 4 digits, but man, in the aviation world, those numbers change everything in a split second.
If you're not super familiar with flight codes, Squawk 7700 is the Universal International Emergency Code. When a plane transmits this, it's instantly telling air traffic control, hey, we have a serious problem. It could be a technical glitch, a mechanical failure, maybe a medical emergency on board. Whatever it is, it absolutely demands priority handling. Clear the airspace, get the ground support ready. It is literally the ultimate drop-everything signal.
Now, tracking the flight data in real time is where things get really tense. Look at this timeline. 0 hours, the distress signal goes out. Plus 1 hour, the tanker alters course, dropping altitude, apparently heading toward Qatar. But then, plus 2 hours, it just vanishes from radar. Now, the reports don't explicitly confirm if it managed a safe landing or if things got worse during the descent. But here's the kicker. Right around the same time, 2 H-125 helicopters suddenly lift off from the Udeid Air Base in Qatar. No official confirmation on their exact mission, but come on, the timing, it strongly points to a direct response to this emergency.
Well, hold on, because here is where the story gets incredibly complicated. This wasn't happening in some clear, pristine environment. Over these exact same waters, reports were flooding in about massive electronic disruptions. We're talking widespread GPS jamming, AIS jamming, and active spoofing over the strait. So picture this. Right as a military plane is dealing with a mid-air mechanical crisis, the entire digital navigation environment of the region is being actively scrambled. Wild, right?
Section 1. The clash of two narratives. Let's see how this all connects.
So, zooming out from that single distressed tanker to the actual waters below, we are literally watching two entirely different realities play out. On one side, Iranian sources are claiming they're aggressively enforcing their borders, even firing on U.S. vessels. But then, on the exact opposite side, Washington is issuing a total, flat denial. Nothing happened. Let's unpack what both sides are actually saying so we can understand the sheer scale of this informational divide.
Let's start with Iran's version because it is highly specific. According to the Iranian army, U.S. destroyers were trying to sneak toward the strait via the Sea of Oman. They claim the American ships were attempting a stealth approach by actually switching off their radar systems. But Tehran says, nope, we were watching. And the second those systems powered back up, Iranian naval forces locked on. They say they didn't just hop on the radio to issue a warning, they claim they fired actual warning shots, cruise missiles, rockets, combat drones, right near the U.S. warships. They're calling this deterrence by demonstration, a very loud, undeniable signal saying, we're enforcing our perimeter.
But across the waters, the U.S. response completely shatters that story. Washington states, flat out, this attack never happened, period. U.S. officials are maintaining a strict denial. They report 0 damage, 0 impact, and absolutely no confirmation of any missiles or drones threatening their ships. So we're left staring at one major flashpoint with two totally contradictory stories. The truth, it's buried pretty deep in that extreme fog of war right now.
Which brings us to Section 2, the red line drawn. Let's look at how this changes the game.
Look, regardless of whose narrative you believe, the fallout here is a very real, very severe shift in regional military posturing. Take this quote from Iranian Major General Ali Abdullahi. He says, any foreign military force approaching the strait will be targeted. I mean, that's not subtle at all, is it? It takes all this abstract geopolitical tension and turns it into a blunt decree. They're signaling that no foreign military, especially American, gets through without explicit Iranian authorization. They are officially shifting from just deterring to actively enforcing.
And they're backing this up with literal lines on a map. Radio warnings from what was called the Sea Navy officially declared the strait completely closed to unauthorized vessels. They drew physical red lines, one between Hinnom Island and Minas Airport, another between Kubit and Port Airport. The broadcast was crystal clear. Any vessel testing these boundaries without coordination faces immediate destruction by the IRGC Navy.
And these warnings weren't a one-off. They were direct and repeated.
So, let's just pause for a second. What does it actually mean when two heavily armed militaries are telling completely different stories in a place like this? Why should every single one of us care about this specific, narrow stretch of water?
That brings us to Section 3, Global Consequences and Stakes.
Let's look at the macro view here. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just some local waterway. It's a massive artery for the global oil supply. A huge chunk of the world's energy flows right through this corridor. So any disruption here absolutely does not stay local. If commercial ships and oil tankers have to reroute because they're terrified of getting caught in a crossfire or because they don't have this authorized coordination, the ripple effect is instant. It slams global shipping, it sends shockwaves through global energy markets, and it forces economies everywhere to scramble. Basically, a disruption in the strait is a disruption to the entire world.
And that right there is exactly why the stakes are just uncomfortably high right now. Both sides are digging in their heels, enforcing completely separate realities, and the margin for error, it's shrinking by the minute. Think about the powder keg we just walked through. You've got scrambled GPS, spoofed radars, a mid-air aircraft emergency, and heavily armed navies staring each other down. In this kind of environment, one misread signal, a delayed response, or even just a warning shot that accidentally lands too close, that could instantly ignite a far-reaching crisis that nobody can control.
I really want to leave you with this final, chilling thought from the reports today. In these waters, warnings don't stay warnings for long. When you have deterrence by demonstration crashing head-on into a flat denial and literal red lines being drawn across one of the world's most critical economic arteries, we really have to ask ourselves, how long can this controlled confrontation last before someone crosses the point of no return? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your eyes on the data, stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.